This morning marks a critical escalation in regional tensions as Iran launched a significant missile and drone assault targeting Azerbaijan. Videos flooding in revealed devastating explosions near Azerbaijan's international airport in Nahan, prompting the immediate closure of Azerbaijan's airspace. This heightened aggression strongly suggests that Azerbaijan might consider retaliating militarily against Iran. Meanwhile, Iran is intensifying its relentless attacks on vital oil infrastructure scattered throughout the Middle East, creating ripple effects across the region. The U.S. military is responding swiftly, mobilizing low-cost defense systems procured from allies to bolster security. In a dramatic display of power, the entire U.S. fleet of heavy bombers has been mobilized, executing a series of massive strikes across Iran so impactful that they turn night into day. Adding to the unfolding scenario, Iran has started concealing its remaining naval forces as most of its smaller, less capable vessels have been sunk to the seabed. This overview barely scratches the surface of the complex situation unfolding. But let's dive into our lead story, emerging straight from the intelligence front. Our biggest update today. Missiles and drones originating from Iran have struck Azerbaijani territory, landing dangerously close to the international airport in Nahan just this Thursday morning. We obtained video footage capturing this aggressive act, marking the first recorded direct strike against Azerbaijan so far. This development signals a boiling point in the strained relations between the Iranian and Azerbaijani governments. Simultaneously, reports indicate that Azerbaijan is rapidly reinforcing its military presence along the border with Iran, underscoring the rising tensions and the potential for further conflict. Now, let's examine the footage from two different perspectives, offering a clearer picture of the strike next to the airport. In the first angle, viewers can see the incoming drone before it crashes into its target, resulting in an enormous explosion. The civilians nearby appear stunned, watching as the Iranian drone slams into an area adjacent to the international airport, leaving a striking impression of the attack's force. Sadly, we've received confirmation that 2 individuals were injured in the assault. Next, our second video shot from a different viewpoint shows the drone diving steadily towards its mark before a powerful impact. This footage reinforces the seriousness of the situation and the aggressive nature of the Iranian strike. In essence, Iran has effectively declared a large-scale hostile action against Azerbaijan, pushing the region to a volatile edge. The critical question now is whether Azerbaijan will mount a military response to this unprecedented aggression. With all eyes on the border, the coming hours and days will be pivotal in determining how this crisis unfolds. Let's take a closer look at the impact zone. You can clearly see exactly where the Iranian drone struck, right beside the main building of the international airport. There was a second angle confirming the precise point of impact. While I can't definitively identify the type of Iranian drone involved, it doesn't appear to be a Shahed model. It seems to be a different variant. Nonetheless, it's unmistakably Iranian and made contact right there on the side of that structure. It's a concerning event, no question about it. Now, switching gears a bit, we've got another intriguing development from global military info. Azerbaijan has shut down its southern airspace, which lies in the direction of Iran, for roughly the next 12 hours. This move follows stern warnings from the Azerbaijani president, who has hinted at possible retaliation against Iran in response to the drone strike we just reviewed. Whether this closure is purely a precaution or a strategic prelude to an impending air operation against Iran remains unclear. What is certain, though, is that tensions between these two nations have escalated dramatically. We'll definitely be keeping a close eye on this evolving situation. Next, let's discuss recent reports from FIDOX News, highlighting an intensification of Iran's offensive actions throughout the region, particularly targeting the Gulf states. The focus has been squarely on oil refineries and related infrastructure critical to these countries' economies. One clip in particular captures a ballistic missile launched by Iran, striking a refinery in Bahrain. The footage shows both the initial missile impact and the devastating aftermath, with large fires blazing at the site. Unlike the previous drone strike, this was a ballistic missile attack, underscoring Iran's demonstrated capability to deploy more advanced weaponry. Watch closely as the missile arcs through the sky with no accompanying sound, descending sharply toward its target, a refinery complex in Bahrain. The strike was a direct hit on the facility, and notably, there's no visible evidence of any air defense system intercepting or neutralizing the threat. The damage inflicted is substantial, setting off a chain of consequences reverberating far beyond the immediate vicinity. As Iran continues to target and damage these vital refinery installations, the ripple effects are expected to disrupt global oil markets and supply chains. This could inevitably affect the United States as well, either indirectly through market forces or directly through strategic considerations. It's currently uncertain how the U.S. plans to respond to this escalating threat, but decisive action will likely be necessary to address this growing challenge. Returning to FIDOX News, the situation at the Bahrain refinery remains dire. The fires raging across the site underscore the severity of the damage following the ballistic missile strike. This facility is grappling with major destruction and ongoing emergency conditions, highlighting the urgent need for containment and repair efforts. Let's dive into the footage of the aftermath. It's a scene that's hard to ignore. The entire area is bathed in an intense orange glow, a sure sign of something very serious. While we don't have exact details on which part of the refinery was struck, the impact was right in the heart of the facility, likely hitting a critical section. This kind of damage almost certainly means the refinery will be offline for some time. We've seen similar attacks on Russia in recent times, mostly carried out by Ukraine, and these strikes have had a major impact on Russia's economy. In the same vein, such attacks have the potential to severely disrupt the economies of Gulf states, creating broader regional issues. This is something we're monitoring closely. In response to these events, the United States moves swiftly to retaliate. Our next update comes from open-source intelligence showing a massive deployment of the U.S. heavy bomber fleet, primarily the B-52s, dispatched to strike Iran. The footage captures these iconic bombers gearing up for action, taxiing down the runway and taking off with precision. The B-52 is one of the most formidable strategic bombers in the U.S. arsenal, designed for mass saturation bombing rather than pinpoint strikes. Its mission essentially involves overwhelming entire sectors rather than targeting specific sites. Watching these colossal aircraft lift off is impressive. Despite their age, B-52s remain highly effective, as the following footage reveals. According to open-source intelligence, as these bombers reached their target in Iran, Tron's installations were engulfed in flames, signaling a decisive and powerful strike. The video shows bombs hitting the outskirts of Tron, setting off massive explosions. While the exact target isn't officially confirmed, there are claims that the Parchin missile facility might have been the focus, but we must be cautious with that assumption without verification. This initial clip marks the first wave of retaliation, but it doesn't stop there. Further posts reveal additional strikes on Tron, with more images showing significant impact zones lighting up the area, indicating continued heavy bombing. The scale and intensity of these strikes underscore the seriousness of this escalation. Far off in the distance, A nuclear explosion went off, a massive strike, hitting something significant. We're not sure if that was at Parchin or perhaps another target, maybe an ammunition depot or something similar. What's clear is that Iran is under intense pressure, especially following their recent attacks on Bahrain. According to a report from World Source News, these strikes resulted in substantial casualties. One striking example: Iran's fifth intelligence base was completely obliterated. The images show it reduced to a heap of rubble and twisted metal. Frankly, that building didn't offer much value. The Iranian government's intelligence capabilities aren't exactly top-notch. So while its destruction is critical symbolically, in practical terms, losing that facility wasn't a huge blow to the enemies. They might have been better off targeting something of more real utility if they could find it. Moving to another update, Vladimir Zelensky shared some encouraging developments. We've been hearing about issues with Western air defense systems deployed in the Middle East, especially concerning the growing shortages of interceptor missiles. The U.S. government is scrambling to find an affordable way to counter incoming Shahed drones. Currently, each interceptor missile costs millions, whereas the Iranian drones themselves only run about $30,000 each. This huge cost gap makes defense complicated and expensive. Now, Zelensky reports that Ukraine has received a request from the United States for specific support and protection against Shahed drone attacks in the Middle East. Zelensky says he has given instructions to provide whatever is necessary and to deploy Ukrainian specialists to guarantee effective security measures. In essence, the U.S. has managed to acquire lower-cost interceptor drones, a crucial breakthrough for maintaining defenses while keeping costs manageable. It's unclear exactly how fast these reinforcements will arrive, but Zelensky is pushing to expedite their deployment as soon as possible. This piece of news offers a hopeful sign amidst the chaos, and suggests Ukraine is playing a supportive role for Western interests, which is a welcome shift. Next, turning to open-source intelligence updates. Remember the anticipated succession in Iran? The current leader's son, reportedly named Moabba, is expected to take charge. But as you might imagine, Moabba shares many of his father's traits. Let's just say that doesn't inspire confidence. In a significant incident, Iranian state television was hacked once again, likely by Western actors. During this hack, a chilling message was broadcast. Whoever follows the Moabba committee will meet the same fate. It appears even Iran's own security forces were momentarily ordered to lay down their weapons, receiving an ultimatum that underscores the unrest beneath the surface. Clearly, there is widespread discontent around the possibility of Moabba taking power, signaling internal strife and resistance brewing against this impending leadership change. Israel has made it clear that if Moabba takes power, they will pursue him directly. An ominous prospect that could seal his fate. Should he ascend to that position, it would indeed be a dramatic turn of events. However, it's still uncertain whether he will actually take charge. Meanwhile, Iranian television broadcasts have been inundated with anti-Moabba propaganda. Curiously, Iran seems unable to maintain control over its own TV networks, as these channels have reportedly been hacked by foreign entities, which is certainly a troubling sign for Tehran. On the political front, statements from the U.S. president regarding Moabba, the son of the Supreme Leader Khamenei, continue to draw attention. The president has dismissed Moabba, calling him inexperienced and a lightweight. He also emphasized the need to be involved in such appointments, referencing his role in the case of Delcy Rodriguez in Venezuela. Although, it's worth noting that Delcy was next in line for leadership in Venezuela, so the president's involvement may have been less direct than suggested. It seems the U.S. president holds little regard for Moabba, which aligns with opinions that, as Khamenei's son Mojtaba may not possess distinct political prowess. Nonetheless, whether Mojtaba will assume a leadership role remains to be seen. Shifting focus, chaos has erupted in Lebanon amid mass evacuations, as Israel intensifies strikes aimed at Iranian proxy forces operating from Lebanese territory. These proxies have been attacking both Israel and Cyprus. In Beirut, the streets are overwhelmed with turmoil. Cars honking incessantly, traffic gridlocks, and a palpable sense of panic as people attempt to flee the escalating conflict. Viewing the scenes, one can't help but notice the futility of the honking and chaos, as there appears to be nowhere safe to escape to. This level of disorder reflects the ongoing instability that often plagues Lebanon and neighboring regions such as Syria. In parallel news involving the Iranian Navy, recent events have marked some of the first submarine attacks since World War II. Just yesterday, an Iranian frigate near the Indian coast was targeted. Today, reports have emerged that another Iranian naval vessel, the Iranian's Bushehr, has opted to intern itself at a neutral port, a development that could carry significant strategic implications. Details on this naval incident are unfolding and merit close observation as tensions in the region continue to rise. Let's talk about the Iranian Navy vessel that's currently docked at a port in Sri Lanka, where it'll stay until the end of the war. Here's the deal. This ship looks more like a shrimping or trawling boat. Definitely not impressive. For some reason, it was hanging out near Sri Lanka and the Indian coast. Maybe they were trying to keep it under the radar. But now, it seems they've taken this hiding tactic even further, asking Sri Lanka directly for help. They're basically hoping Sri Lanka will shelter the vessel, preventing it from being attacked by submarines. The Iranians know full well that if they try to move the ship back towards their home ports and risk passing through U.S. Navy patrols, it'll be targeted with torpedoes, just like their last ship. The mere idea of bringing it back is terrifying for them, which from our perspective is actually a good sign. At this point, the Iranian Navy is in pretty rough shape. We've seen their propaganda ships getting taken out left and right, and their so-called drone carriers sinking. Their relatively small and unremarkable fleet is basically making its way to Davy Jones' locker. It's almost laughable, considering how they initially boasted about sinking U.S. aircraft carriers right off the bat. Instead, what actually happened is the U.S. forces effectively decimated most of their Navy, though their plans didn't quite pan out as expected. Shifting gears, let's talk about an update from Perfect Union. Apparently, U.S. Central Command, according to information obtained by mainstream media, is internally predicting that the war against Iran could drag on until September. That's several months from now. This prolonged conflict is expected to rack up costs exceeding $100 billion, and that figure could increase significantly if the war goes beyond that point. Right now, the daily burn rate we're hearing is about $1 billion per day to keep the conflict going, mainly due to the expenses involved in using air defense interceptor missiles. These missiles are crucial for defending Gulf states and U.S. bases in the region. This paints a picture of a drawn-out and costly war, somewhat reminiscent of the situation in Iraq years ago. The challenge remains that unless there's a more cost-effective way to neutralize Iranian-shot drones, expenses will continue to soar. We're crossing our fingers that the costs can come down, but for now, uncertainty remains. Lastly, I have some breaking news that I had planned to include earlier but didn't get to. Stay tuned for that update. Let's dive into a developing story that's just emerged. Military equipment is currently en route to the Kurdistan region's border with Iran. According to the Kurdistan regional government, this shipment is intended solely for border protection purposes. We have video footage showing a convoy comprised of numerous armored vehicles and Humvees apparently heading towards the Iran border from Kurdistan. Let's take a closer look at the types of deployments involved, which are supposedly for defensive action. However, the actual intent remains uncertain at this stage. In the video you can clearly see several Humvees traveling together. Some are mounted on the backs of transport trucks, while others are moving along in separate vehicles. In total, there appears to be a significant number of Humvees included in this deployment. Additionally, we observe some armored vehicles on the back of another transport vehicle, heading in the same direction. This movement originates from Kurdistan and is aimed at the border shared with Iran. The purpose of this buildup is still very much up for debate. While it's plausible that these forces are being positioned for defensive measures, there is also the possibility of offensive intentions. At this early point, it's simply impossible to know for sure. This development is quite significant, and we will be monitoring it vigilantly as new information comes to light. Switching gears, let's explore an intriguing update shared by Preston Stewart regarding Iran's military tactics. Apparently, Iran has begun deploying underwater drones to strike oil tankers in the Persian Gulf. This approach is fascinating because it mirrors the method Ukraine has successfully employed against the Russian Navy. Those underwater drones have played a crucial role in significantly debilitating the Russian Navy during the ongoing conflict. There's visual evidence showing the aftermath of one such attack, a substantial hole blasted into the side of an oil tanker. This particular vessel was flagged under the Bahamas and was operating in the northern Persian Gulf when it suffered the strike. Witnessing the damaged tanker is a stark reminder of the destructive potential of these underwater drones. Reflecting on this, there's an emerging narrative that complexity and expense in weaponry don't always guarantee superiority in modern conflicts. Observations from the Ukraine-Russia war and the ongoing tensions involving the US and Iran suggest that countries armed with an abundance of cheaper, mass-produced munitions are often achieving success against more costly, sophisticated legacy systems typically used by the US and Western forces. This might be signaling the need for a shift in military doctrine. The US, known for its investment in expensive major weapon systems, has been slow to adapt, but the changing landscape could necessitate a revaluation of long-standing strategies. Moving forward, we have another development reported by Max 25. This one is also quite concerning, but we'll need to wait to expand on those details as they become clearer. Stay tuned as we continue to follow these evolving stories closely. We've come across a striking photo, recently released by mainstream media, revealing a massive 30-foot hole blasted into the sidewall of a hangar at a military base. Here's the critical detail. This particular base, and notably this hangar, houses the UTO spy planes. These aircraft aren't relics of the past. They're still very much active. For those unaware, the UTO spy plane remains in service with both the USIA and the Air Force. Its recent deployment was clear when the Chinese balloon entered its airspace. The UTO was the plane that flew overhead to capture photographic evidence. Now, it appears the Iranians may have targeted our UTOs directly in this hangar. The hole visible on the hangar's side suggests at least one successful strike, although it's unclear if any U-2 aircraft were damaged or destroyed. This development is alarming, considering these planes are expensive and aged, but continue to carry out vital surveillance missions. Adding to the intrigue, neither the US nor British governments have released official statements regarding the incident so far. We're closely monitoring for updates on this disturbing situation. Switching gears, let's delve into another pressing issue involving geopolitical tensions. Here's a story you'll want to keep a close eye on, not for dramatic effect, but because it's genuinely significant. The US president recently declared that Cuba is next in line to fall. Implicit in his statement is the idea that this follows Venezuela's decline. Opinions differ on Venezuela. While the Maduro regime remains in power, some argue the country's stronghold has weakened substantially, effectively constituting a fall. To bring you up to speed, Cuba remains under a strict U.S. embargo that functions almost like a naval blockade. Currently, Cuba has no aviation fuel, rendering its airports unable to operate flights outbound. Just yesterday, Cuba experienced a nationwide blackout. A blackout whose causes remain mysterious, though speculation leans heavily towards US involvement. Amid this pressure, it seems the U.S. is intent on toppling the Cuban government, aiming to replace the current regime. It's an ambitious and complicated course of action. The U.S. is engaging on multiple fronts: Venezuela, Cuba, Iran, and more. In many ways, it's biting off more than it might realistically handle simultaneously. Time will tell how this geopolitical juggling act unfolds, but we're certainly watching closely to see how these dynamic and shifting situations evolve.